The idea with bar hop is you're using the stick as sort of a contrivance to force you to move around. Really all that we're trying to develop is the ability to kind of step your feet around gently, get yourself set up into a stance like so as you're moving around, and also still looking to shoot while you're doing that. So you're seeing there, my feet are kind of doing one thing, they're moving around where I want to go, and my upper body is relatively stable and I can still effectively shoot. At the core, that's what we're trying to do. The stick is just there to give you something to move around. Tip number one is this is about making your movement nice and subconscious. You're not looking at this stick like a fault line where you look at how you'd be assessing penalties or something like that. It's not really about that. I would try not to get too hung up on that part. What it is about is making that your ability to move around a little bit as you're shooting, making that subconscious. The most common tip that I would give you to pay attention to is you want to check your stance at the start and at the finish. So I want to start with my feet spread apart, knees bent, do the drill and then check, like, hey, feet spread apart, knees bent, like, yes, that's good. If I end up like this, this is not the right thing. And you want to check that every time. Again, you want to make it subconscious so like when you actually get into a practical setting in a stage or on a match or whatever, where you're moving into a position, you're like, hey, I'm moving over here, the gun's up, and you're going to be subconsciously setting yourself up nice and wide so you can move again while you're still engaging targets up here. That's the place you're trying to take it to. Consciously check your stance when you start and when you finish the drill. It's going to help you a lot by ingraining the habit of standing like so. You want to disconnect the upper body, what that's doing, from the lower body. So that means your decision on whether or not to be pulling the trigger, that's determined only by the sights and not by what your feet are doing. Check yourself very carefully, but you might have some idea in your head or something that you've worked into your shooting where you'd be like, okay, do these targets, and then when you might be thinking, hey, when I set this foot down, that's when I start pulling the trigger again. You might have something like that you want to try to discard that. If you catch yourself doing that, where you've tied a shooting decision to something you're doing with your feet, that will cause problems for you. If you think that's the case, that's something you want to train specifically to just, hey, I'm going to react to what I'm seeing only, that'll be driving my shooting decisions.